様の仰せのままに。
海流ルコ、この件はわかるかい？炭になるがいい。行くぞ。やっ。これが海山を滅ぼした力だ。はっ。やっ。はっ。
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I want to cover my BEIDOU build. I've been building her for a little while now. It only took me a few days to build her and use up a lot of fragile resin, but I finally got her to almost the max ascension, and in today's video I want to cover my build. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Straight off the bat, we're looking at about 2200 attack with 42 elemental mastery. It's not a lot, but BEIDOU doesn't really rely on elemental mastery to deal a lot of damage. We're looking at 63.7% crit rate with 149.5% crit damage, which is actually a pretty good number considering that she scales with electro damage bonus and neither crit rate nor crit damage. We're looking at a 79.6% electro damage bonus, which is very nice. For the weapon, we are using Wolf's Gravestone, but alternatively, you could use almost any of the other 5-star weapons. Song of Broken Pines isn't really that good, considering that it gives the physical damage bonus unless you plan on running BEIDOU as a physical damage dealer. Sacrificial is okay if you're using her as a support DPS. This is great for a main DPS as well, considering that it has a decent base attack and it has attack percentage as a substat, and you can get up to 40% extra damage from your elemental burst. Lithic Blade is good if you have more than a couple people in your party that are from leeway, as it gives you the extra crit rate and attack percentage. Rain Slasher is nothing to write home about, and Favonius Greatsword is good if you're planning to use her as a support DPS as well, as it scales with energy recharge and you have more elemental particles with the windfall effect. Other options are going to be the Black Cliff, as it comes with crit damage, and the Battle Pass weapon, the Serpent Spine, as it comes with crit rate, and the passive on that gives you also additional damage. Overall, if you have artifacts that are more crit rate based, I would go with the Black Cliff weapon. If you have weapons that are more based around crit damage, I would go for the Serpent Spine. But the best free-to-play option, which I do not have in my inventory right now, is going to be Prototype Archaic, as you can hit some pretty big numbers with that weapon as well, and it has a pretty high attack percentage and base attack, especially for a free-to-play weapon. For artifacts, we're running Gladiator's Finale and Thundering Fury, 2-piece of both. These are what my artifacts are looking like: crit rate, crit damage, crit damage, sorry. For the Hourglass, you want to be running attack on this, as we have 5% and 22. If you're running her as support, you can also use energy recharge, but overall, if you're running her as a main, I would highly suggest using attack. For the Goblet, you want to use electro damage bonus if you have her C4 or above. If you do not have her C4 and you plan on running her as a main DPS, I would recommend using an attack percentage, as most of her damage is mixed, that being physical and electro damage, so you're just gonna have an overall higher attack. And for the helmet, I would recommend either crit rate or crit damage, depending on what your other artifacts are looking like. Whatever you're weak in, I would recommend going for the other one, but we're going with crit rate, as it gives us a pretty substantial bonus to our crit rate, and we get that crit rate over 50%. Overall, try to get your crit rate above 50% before you start worrying about how high your crit damage is. This is a pretty even number right here. It's a pretty decent number, considering it's a little bit higher than a 1-to-2 ratio, but as long as you have your crit rate over 50%, I would say that's pretty sufficient. Before we move on and I forget, the other artifact sets that you can use, if you want to, you can use a 2-piece Thundering Fury and then a 2-piece Noblesse. And the reason is because a lot of BEIDOU's damage comes from her Q ability, and this gives you extra elemental burst damage, so overall it'll boost your damage outcome overall. The other option, if you would like, is to run a 4-piece Thundering Fury, as you get higher elemental reaction damage, but considering that Electro Charge is going to be the main one, you're not really getting a whole lot of damage. And for the last set, I would recommend going with Thunder Soother. By going with the 4-piece Thunder Soother, you get increased damage against opponents affected by Electro by 35%, and this is really good if you can keep Electro on them. But overall, if you're using somebody like Xingqiu like I am, they're going to have Hydro and maybe Pyro mixed in there with your 4th character as well. So overall, this might not be super consistent as the other two. For Constellation, once you have her C4, you start seeing a little bit more damage with the Electro. So that's why we're running the Electro Cup and the 2-piece Thundering Fury, because this is absolutely insane. And this also decreases Electro resistance to enemies that are around you when you pop your Q. So This is also a really good one. These are the two highlights. Everything else I wouldn't really worry about, to be honest. They give you a little bit of a small buff, but not overall game breaking. Now for her talents, a lot of her damage does come from Stormbreaker, so I would definitely look into prioritizing this first. Tide Color as second, and we'll get into how this functions here in a minute, because this is the only skill that you need to be worried about how it functions. And then go ahead and level this last. Even if your attack and you want her to hit the big white numbers like we all do, just go ahead and worry about this last, as these two are where her damage mostly come from. Now getting into the way she functions, for her normal attack, she has 5 hits, and her last one, her sword gets stuck on the ground for a long time, much like Diluc. So there's a couple ways you can cancel that. The first one is, of course, jumping out of it, and the second way is to dash out of it, which is a little bit faster. And then the last way is obviously to pop her E right after. But generally, you're going to be swapping between other characters, so I don't see a reason why you would have to animation cancel with BEIDOU all that much. Now for the way her E functions, as you can see right here, without anybody hitting you, you're not dealing that much damage, about 9,000. The way her E works is if somebody hits you twice, or if you can do a perfect parry, once you get her past a certain ascension, she can essentially deal really high numbers right here, 288%. And this goes by how many hits you can actually get taken, so that will go up. And this, if you get a perfect parry, as you can see, you can get a maximum damage bonus out of that. This is the other one. If you can get a perfect parry, or if you can deal a maximum amount of damage, right here, you get an attack increase and an attack speed increase, which is very nice, especially if you're using BEIDOU as a main DPS. So now let me show you what this looks like once you can get a perfect parry. So you can see right there, we hit about 36,000, and because we got that perfect parry, we now have the attack increase as well. So overall, I would say BEIDOU is pretty easy to use. You have to kind of catch iframes with her, especially with the way that her E functions. If there's multiple enemies, I would recommend holding it like this until you get 2 hits and then unleash it. But if it's just one big large enemy, just try to catch it by the iframe right before it hits you to try to get the maximum damage bonus on her E. That's about it for the way BEIDOU functions. Let's go ahead and get into our party. So this is what BEIDOU's party is looking like. We're going to go through each of the characters independently, but first off, we're going to start with Xingqiu. The reason why Xingqiu is so good with her is for electro charged, and it'll affect multiple enemies and deal damage over time. One thing to remember about BEIDOU is that her Q ability actually has 80 energy recharge, which is pretty high. So the way to work around that, because you can get so much value out of it, but it takes so long to recharge, is by adding in another electro character, like somebody like Fischl, or somebody like a quick swap Keqing. I wouldn't recommend going with somebody like Lisa. If you wanted to use somebody like the electro version of the Traveler, you could do that as well. But overall, Fischl just has the most value, especially in this case since I have her built. And she can get you a lot of damage output, and also she can give you a lot of energy back for BEIDOU, so she has her Q back more often. Last character is a little bit more flexible. We're running Bennett for heals, but if you don't want to run Bennett, you can run somebody like either Jean, Venti, Sucrose, or Animo Traveler, and have the 4-piece Viridescent on to give you that extra damage against Electro off of Swirl. Alternatively though, if you want to do somebody like Zhongli to give you the shield and also decrease their resistance, that's also fine. Or if you just want to run a cryo character, if you plan on using a physical BEIDOU, then that works as well. The last character is very flexible, as it is almost in every build. But overall, I would say that these two, try to keep them within the same arena. If you don't want to use Fischl, you can just use another Electro character. Alternatively, if you don't want to use Xingqiu and you have Child, I would highly recommend using him. The reason is if you're running support BEIDOU, then you can just constantly keep Eing and Q and keep your Q up while Child does all the Electro charged. Overall though, this is a really strong party, and I think BEIDOU is actually one of the most overlooked characters inside of the game, just because of all the other characters that are inside of the game that are Electro or 5-star. But for a 4-star character, especially since she has easy constellations to get because she is a 4-star, I would say that she's probably one of the strongest in the game, especially if you can build her properly. And she's definitely one of the most fun, especially with the way that her E functions, because no other character in the game functions like this. Also, for those of you who like to watch my videos and don't subscribe and you know who you are, I'm pretty sure me and BEIDOU would greatly appreciate it if you would just go ahead and subscribe so you didn't miss out on my videos, and leave down your suggestions down in the comment section below. Anyways, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. If you guys did enjoy, just let me know down in the comment sections what kind of videos you guys want to see next. Thank you guys all for stopping by, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.